It's a 7-inch monitor, insane 3000 nit display, HDMI in and out, SDI in and out, really rugged construction, but no touchscreen. This is the OSEE G7 field monitor. I've been testing it for about the last month, and here are my thoughts. When it comes to buying filmmaking equipment, products seem to fit into one of two categories. On one end, you've got the incredibly cheap and cheerful products, and on the other end of the spectrum, you've got the professional grade filmmaking equipment, which is much more expensive. Now, the incredibly cheap products are usually lacking in build quality or quality of features, but they do get the job done. On the other hand, the pro gear is really feature rich, but has the price tag to match. The OSEE G7 is unique in the way that it fits right in the middle of those two categories. It's not a budget product, but it's got premium build quality and pro features, but it doesn't break the bank either. If you don't need the SDI in and out, then you could also look at the OSEE T7, which is basically the exact same monitor, but only has HDMI in and out, and as such is slightly cheaper. The monitor comes in a lovely Pelly style hard case with everything you need to get started. Friction arm for mounting, mains power adapter, DC to DTAP cable, V-mount plate, and sun hood. You could also use an MPF style battery like I am just here, but you don't get a battery with the product. Build quality of the monitor is fantastic. It feels really rugged and well built. Whilst it is a polycarbonate plastic outer case, it's got an aluminium structure within, which makes it feel rugged and like it will really stand up to the abuse of being thrown around and on constant shoots, particularly around the mounting points, which are often an area of weakness. The quality of the display is pretty fantastic, no complaints at all. It's 1920 by 1200 resolution, and it accepts signals up to 4K. Now, if you're used to using a 5-inch field monitor, then stepping up to a 7-inch monitor like this makes a massive difference, and I've really been enjoying the extra real estate when I'm out and about on shoots. The brightness is also insane, 3000 nits, which is perfectly capable for being used outside in direct sunlight. To give you an idea, the monitor right now, it's got 10 steps of brightness. At the moment, I've got the backlight set to 3 out of a possible 10. And unlike some cheaper monitors, when you do push the brightness right up to the higher end, it's not distorting the image and giving you like a false idea of your exposure. It still feels like a fairly accurate interpretation of your exposure, although, you know, still rely on your scopes and histogram because it is super bright monitor, so it can still affect that. But on other monitors I've used, once you're in that high brightness mode, you start to see like your highlights looking blown out, even though they're not. On this one, you can see quite clearly whether it's blown out or not. And changing the backlight of the monitor does not change the way the exposure looks on screen. As I say, I'm using this monitor for internal use, probably at around 3 or 4 on the brightness steps, and I've only bumped it up to 7 or 8 when I've been out in direct sunlight a few times. The G7 has all of the monitoring tools that you would expect from a premium field monitor: false color, focus assist, built-in LUTs, user LUTs, image resize, anamorphic desqueeze, grids, zebras, waveforms, vector scopes, histogram, and audio meter. My experience of using the monitor, all of the tools which they offer are really well implemented and user customizable. So for example, the false color option, whereas some of your more budget options may just give you a false color setting. On this one, you've got over 16 different versions of false color dependent on what profile you're shooting in. So for example, there's a Sony S-Log3 false color, where the colors are tweaked to show you the correct exposure for skin tones and stuff like that. So it's not just the tool itself, but within the tool, they're really feature-rich options. Everything is customizable, so you can get it just the way you want it. So let's talk about the elephant in the room for a minute. No touchscreen. So when I first received the monitor, I was really disappointed that it didn't have a touchscreen. I really thought this would be a deal breaker for me, but actually after a short time using the monitor, it's got a really intuitive user interface. It's got this single little red joystick to control all of the settings, and actually once you've got it set up, it's actually really nice to use. So I'm not really missing the touchscreen that much at all. The way it kind of gets around it is it uses something called scenes, and you can configure up to 8 different scenes, and each scene can have a collection of different exposure tools. You can literally switch between scenes just with one click of the joystick to the side. So I've got this one set with zebras, this one just with audio meters, and this one with false color. So that's really nice. And obviously up to 8 different ones that you can configure. I've just found it to be really simple. I sort of scoffed at the marketing when I first read that they were sort of saying, don't get fingerprints. We've purposefully not included a touchscreen. But I must say, after a month of using it, it has actually been nice not constantly having fingerprints on the monitor. So, you know, would it be nice if it had the touchscreen? Yeah, probably. But actually, it's not the deal breaker that I thought it would be. I love the fact that this monitor comes with a DC to DTAP cable, and it's clear to me with the accessories that OSEE have provided that they are targeting a more professional user with this monitor. I often rig my camera up and power my camera using a V-mount battery. This inclusion of this cable means I don't have to use an MPF dummy battery like I do with some of my other field monitors. I also really like the hard case, but I have to say it's great for storing the monitor, but for a lot of the run and gun style shoots that I've been doing recently, it's actually a little bit cumbersome, and I end up taking the monitor out of the case and just packing it in my camera bag. For that reason, I'm actually in the market for a sort of slimline, kind of soft padded, maybe neoprene, more sort of like an envelope style case that I can just pop this in just to protect the screen, but then still just put it inside my camera bag. But I can't really complain about the inclusion of such a lovely case that comes with the product. The monitor also includes a cooling fan. You can set the ambient temperature of wherever you are, and then the fan is automatic and takes care of itself. Now, I have used this for some fairly long shoots, and I must say I have noticed that the monitor does get incredibly warm. In fact, just like touching on the aluminium frame at the top and bottom, or on the SDI ports when not in use. After a 4 or 5 hour shoot I was on the other day, they were really quite hot to touch, but I've had no problems with the monitor overheating or anything like that. It's performed perfectly, but yeah, I was surprised at how warm it got on that longer shoot. The other thing to mention as well is that the monitor includes an accelerometer, so if you switch it over, then it will automatically flip depending on which way the monitor is orientated. This is quite a nice touch and can be turned off in the monitor's settings. So to summarise, I think the OSEE G7 is an amazing 7-inch monitor for professionals who are really going to put this bit of kit through its paces. If you're going to use it really regularly and you want something that's going to last, then I think it's worth the extra money for this compared to a more budget option because of the longevity that it's likely to provide you. Yes, there are much cheaper options available, but I just don't think they're going to give you the richness of features or the reliability of the build quality that the G7 offers you. Yes, it would be great if it had a touchscreen, but as I've already mentioned, surprisingly, it's not as much of a deal breaker as I thought it might be. So that is the OSEE G7 7-inch field monitor. Pretty great by all accounts. Thanks for watching, and other than that, I'll see you next time.